Coming up on this episode, I talk about showing up and how it might just be the missing link you've been looking for, and how it can also take many different forms. Showing up don't always mean physical presence. So let's get into it. What's going on, beautiful people? This is the Perspective Chasers podcast, and I'm your host, John. On this episode, I want to talk about showing up. Now, it's been said before that a big majority of life is showing up. Now, I say it's been said before because there's a Woody Allen quote that varies from anything from, say, 50% to 99% of life is supposedly showing up. But I don't know if there's an exact number for it, but a big part of life is showing up. And that's what I want to talk about in this episode. So let's get into it. The big thing with a lot of situations in life is you get that overwhelming idea of, I don't know, or this, that, or whatever else. And you can do as much theory as you want, as much research and everything else. But unless you actually show up and put yourself in that situation, you're not going to know how it's going to play out. And I think that should be the biggest takeaway from that. Not a specific number, but just the fact that a big part of life is simply showing up. Putting yourself in that situation, no matter what it is. And it's going to have many forms, and you're going to have to show up in many ways. It's not always going to necessarily be a physical show up. Showing up could be sending an email to somebody and confronting something that you've been putting off, or showing up could be putting your clothes out for work the day before. You're showing up for yourself, so you made your life a bit easier. Showing up can take many, many forms. But the fact is, if you put in the work, you'll get there. Or you're more than likely going to get there far easier than if you don't. So that really is, again, I could do these episodes really quickly if I didn't break it down further, but that really is the point of showing up, is you're putting in the effort, you're taking the action. And it's the same thing being said in different words over and over again. So understand that showing up will take many forms. It's not always going to mean you have to physically show up to a location, but it does mean you have to put in effort. It means you have to put in the work to get there. You can't just expect it to come to you. And that's going to apply to many aspects in life. No matter what area of life you want to succeed in, you're not going to succeed in it unless you show up to it. So don't put off getting in for the sake of theory and everything else. Like, it's so easy to overthink. And showing up, again, it takes many, many forms. And we'll put things on a pedestal and we'll build things up in our mind to a point where we think we can't live up to the task, or we can't perform the task, or whatever else. It happens in many forms, but it don't mean it's true. But the only way to find out is if it is true or not, is to go through that situation. It's to put in the work, get there, show up for yourself, and find out. No amount of speculation is ever going to give you the information you need. There is only one way to find out, and it's to do the work. Show up, put in the effort, and then you'll find out. Nothing's going to come from nothing. So stop putting it off and doing nothing. Like, we can convince ourselves, just a little bit more preparation, just a little bit more this, just a little bit more that, and I'll be ready, How do you know when you haven't ever done it? So put yourself in the situation, and then you'll find out what you need and what you don't need. And then come back, and then prepare again. I'll associate it to life in a couple of ways with a few short stories. So my little one's first day of nursery, I thought I had everything packed. Her backpack looked like somebody nuked it with OCD. Everything was all organised. I thought everything was prepared. Da 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 da. Picked her up at the end of the day, and they was like, "Oh, she needs more stuff, this, that, or whatever else." I was like, "Oh, I thought like I spent a couple of days overthinking, over preparing her bag, thinking of what she would need and everything else." And it wasn't until she actually went in and done a day that they told me what she did actually need. Like some things I packed and that she didn't need, and other things I didn't pack enough of that she needed. So you only learn by going through it. You can speculate as much as you want. And again, that's a very simple situation. But we do this in multiple aspects of life. I can spin it into a career thing. When my first day of security, when I thought it was going to be all this and all that, and I spent however long training to get my license for security, and I was like, oh, I'm security now. I'm going to see all like the non-access parts and this, that, and everything else. And it's nothing special. It's just another part of a building or another part of whatever it is, or some more people. It's never anything too spectacular. It's never anything life changing. And I think that's the thing, is we build these things up to think that it's all life changing, whether it be a new job or any type of first day or whatever it is. Anything that is a new situation, we try to protect ourselves, build up a defense barrier and say, cool, what are we going to need? What disasters can we control and everything else? Because again, nobody likes dealing with the chaos necessarily. Nobody likes being unprepared. Nobody likes being caught with their pants down. So we try to protect ourselves from that, and that's natural, that's fine. But again, it's about being aware of it. So understand what is stopping you from showing up. Understand where are you building something up to bigger than it needs to be, and understand where you're just putting it off because you're scared. And that's okay, but there's only one way to get rid of that fear, and that's to go through it. Otherwise, you're always going to have that fear. And again, it's the same problem in different clothes. How do you get over fear? Show up and confront it. How do you progress in life? Show up and confront it. How do you progress in relationships? Show up and confront it. Whatever it is, unless you put yourself in the situation, you're not going to get through it. So take the time to see where you're failing to show up in your life. Again, you might be winning in life and putting in all the work you need to do, and then fair play to you. But if there are things that you want to work on, if there are things that you're putting off and you're stuck at wondering how, ask yourself, are you not showing up in one form or another? And then ask yourself why. Because there'll be a reason for everything. And if the reason's negative, that's fine. Confront it anyway. If the reason's positive, that's fine. Confront it anyway. And there's loads of reasons that we can stop showing up. It doesn't have to be negative. So, again, comfort is the enemy of progress. So, when we're comfortable, we don't want to leave that comfort zone and do new things. We don't want to show up. We don't want to, whatever it is, hunt, gather, work. We're comfortable. So taking the time to realize, like, are you where you want to be? If you are, then fair play. If you're not, then why? It could be because you're very comfortable where you currently are, and that's stopped you wanting to progress further. Okay, cool. Then reassess and question, are you happy to stay here, or do you still want to go further? Like, it's always going to change over time what we want in life, and the path you want, and what you think you might want today, you might not want tomorrow. So taking the time to understand what we want and understand why we want it and then acting accordingly, that's, I guess, for me anyway, the best code of practice in life, to just constantly keep adjusting and see how life goes. Because all of life is different and there's always going to be change. So just tweaking myself along with life seems to be making me happier. Hopefully it does for you. But it all starts with showing up. If I was still putting off this podcast and other things that I had to do in life, I'd probably be a stress head and very unhappy right now. But I showed up and things are improving. Not to say I'm completely happy yet, but I'm getting there slowly. And that's what all of us can hope for at the end of the day. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this episode up. The seed for this episode is take some time and see where you wanted to go in life when you was younger, where you want to go in life now, and where you may want to go in life in future. Take some time to understand how you've changed as a person over time. You may have completely stuck to your guns and you might wanted to be a firefighter when you was a little kid and you're a firefighter as an adult and you want to retire as a firefighter. Fair play. But still ask yourself the question. Because if you don't ask yourself the question, you're never going to have the answer. And see where it goes. You never know, you might find something new about yourself. Anyway, all the best. I'll catch you on the next one.